This is part two of our discussion on the last day of South by Southwest. I wonder if we could talk about the whole me thing. About we've heard that consistently through the week, and I think you started to address that about the whole thing about focus on the individual and that whole simple universe.
Well, it's quantified self stuff is it was big at CES. It was big at CES last year. It's still big here. The self-tracking wearable computing track has been, I don't know if you've seen any of it, it's just been fascinating. The amount of data that we can gather about ourselves and the way we can use all that data that we're gathering about ourselves and our place in the environment to make sense of where we are in the environment. And because once you can make sense of where you are and all the sort of like how many calories you're burning and stuff, then you can actually make change.
Is there an upside and downside to that?
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, everyone's really on the quantified self bandwagon right now. But if you see the actual uptake, like the percentage of people that are using these devices, it's really, really small. It's almost like we're trying to just target this one little demographic over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is fascinating technology, but
I gotta wonder too, because if I had a Fitbit, and if you go on the Fitbit forums, everyone starts to try to maximize and optimize like the steps and the stairs and everything, like and try to game the system. And it seems like, in some ways, we're optimizing for what we can measure. So not like a bigger picture, but we figure we can measure steps, and suddenly everyone's working on optimizing steps.
The gaming thing is actually really relevant. I have a Nike Fuel Band, and
that's the physical thing.
It's the physical thing, and the digital thing, and the self-tracking, and the quantified self. And it's interesting. One of the most competitive people I know in my life has gone 300 days with the streak on his Nike Fuel Band of reaching his goal, which is actually a pretty big deal. And he's lost 70 pounds or something. He's making other changes too, of course. But I think the really interesting thing about that is if you get the right demographic, this intensely competitive gaming demographic, it is actually really effective, right? Because you're playing against yourself and you've got all this perceived success, and you're going for it. And I think the next step to that is going to be really actually gamifying it with games and such. I think Nike recently released something like that with their Fuel Band, which I haven't looked at yet, which I'm kind of embarrassing. I saw an email about it in my inbox, and I was like, this is really cool, but then was distracted by the 600 other emails in my inbox. But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually really relevant right now, and it's definitely out there. I think we're sort of looking for the next step for it to go.
So you've all been at South by now for a few days. So what was the vibe this year?
Grumpy Cat. Definitely. That's the largest vibe.
I rode the elevator at the OMA conference. I rode the elevator with Grumpy Cat, and I thought I said, "Is that a live cat?" 'Cause I didn't recognize it, obviously. I said, this is a famous cat, had I known. Anyway.
I think Grumpy Cat was actually really interesting, particularly when you juxtapose it against some of these big idea keynotes about space and exploration and building rockets. And it's on one hand, we're being really, really sophisticated with our space exploration. On the other hand, our imaginations are completely captured by this stupid cat that had 600 people waiting to see it.
To pay.
I know, it didn't make any sense. But
there's a lesson there.
Whatever. There's frivolousness.
Well, I'm not going to ask if you guys have done the Grumpy Cat face. So what about other things in terms of the feeling of the show? Anybody?
I think it's the first couple days with the rain and stuff like that. It was a little bit, especially the rain at 3 a.m. at the parties thing. Yeah. That was grumpy. Yeah, everyone was very grumpy at that part. But I got to tell you, it's interesting because the sense of place of this density of everyone around, and then you pour sunshine on top of it. We had a fantastic day yesterday. Everyone's in a much better mood. There's a lot more business cards flying around.
These because you're leaving town soon?
Yeah, everyone's had that frenzy last minute. I got to get it in. I don't know. I think it's been steadily going upward as people see amazing stuff and get inspired again.
We've been doing some data visualization. I'm actually doing a presentation tomorrow with a colleague about South by Southwest and the hype versus reality and takeaways. And we've been looking at Foursquare data. We partnered with the MIT Civic Design Lab to visualize some of the Foursquare check-ins. And it's actually really fun to watch the check-ins as they move from South by Southwest venues out through the day to the bars and people checking in all over the place at 2 a.m. And then it gets really quiet until 7 or 8 a.m. and it slowly ramps up again. So that's kind of fun, and definitely, can see the rain in that data because it wasn't very fun. And what was it? Saturday night, Tuesday night, or I mean, rather Friday night was it? Where there was a huge downpour.
Yeah, that blurry night.
That blurry night, I don't know.
When was that anyway?
It's wet.
Okay, stand by for more from South by Southwest.